This is Pod Populi, podcasts for the people.
Back at it with another episode of Under Pressure, and I'm excited because the man, the myth, the legend, Mario Rinaldi is here, the man who makes it all happen at Monroe's Gentleman Club. Thank you so much for being part of Under Pressure, my good sir.
Thanks for having me, Carmine.
So I like my guests to kind of introduce themselves, a little bit about yourself, a little background so people can get to know you. Then we just have some fun.
All right. Well, I was raised here in South Florida. Graduated high school in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Lived here most of my life in West Palm Beach as a child. I split time between the two. Went off to school on a wrestling scholarship. Came back, got into law enforcement for a little bit, and then I started fighting professionally in mixed martial arts. I opened my own gym, and then I, by chance, got into the adult nightclub business. And now, currently, 20 years later, I'm currently operating partner at Monroe Palm Beach.
That's awesome. I need to know, how do you accidentally get into the the gentleman's club game?
Right, so a bunch of us guys were fighting, and when you're starting off as a fighter, you live the life of a poor person mostly. You're just trying to realize your dream. So we were at the gym, and we had a guy there named Aaron, who was a manager at Tootsie's Cabaret in Miami, and I was explaining to him, I just need a couple $100 a week just to make ends meet in between fights, and he hired me as a door host at Tootsie's Cabaret, and I worked there 2 days a week. And, the money was pretty good. I mean, back then it was great money. And I realized that, wow, you could make a living doing this, and kind of just happened from there. It went from 2 days to 3 days to 4 days to promotions to, kind of building a name for myself in the business.
That's awesome, because I've known you for a while, and I never knew you had that background, though, in mixed martial arts, because just on the surface, you're an intimidating guy. If you don't know, you're like, I don't want to mess with this guy. He could fuck me up anyway. Right. Now that I know you also could throw your hands, dude.
Right. But I'm still probably the nicest guy in any room.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. You are literally one of the nicest people I've ever met. But when someone crosses that line, it's game over for them.
It can be. It depends on the circumstances. I've always felt that, you got to have, there's a responsibility to knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. So, just because I have the knowledge and the ability to, physically harm someone, I have a responsibility to keep that in check. That's like the true measure of your integrity, really, in that regard. So,
I like that, because the show is under pressure, and in moments like that, some things that are out of your control, you're also trying to be in control and under pressure, because it's like, I could really hurt this person, and 9 times out of 10 they're just being obnoxious, they're drunk, a lot of different things are going on, they're probably not a bad person per se, and you have to think of that because you're there sober, and you know how to throw your hands. If you physically and seriously hurt somebody, you're probably still going to be liable for that.
Right. Well, so I mean, in the bar business, there's a lot of different dynamics. So one thing you have to be cautious on is exposing yourself legally. Mm-hmm. 2, you do also have to be aware that you're probably the reason the person's acting like that, because we sell alcohol. Yeah. Right? So we're in a room full of guys selling alcohol with a room full of pretty women. So, that's a formula for egos to rise, and that's a formula for things to go disarray if you don't have a calm, cool demeanor when it comes to dealing with those situations.
You could calm those fires 9 times out of 10 before it even escalates to that point, because of your personality, though, because you're a nice guy, and it's like someone's like, you're not going to cross me. Like, let's just handle this way, like men, and be careful. Have you ever been put in a situation where things went completely off the rails?
So because of my background in law enforcement, mm-hmm. and I actually also worked in mental health for couple years too, but because of my
you've done it all, sir. Right, so
look at you, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of experiences, but because of those backgrounds, and I've always been even tempered. We've developed a system at Monroe's that pretty much rectifies situations before they occur. right? So the best way in the bar business to deal with a situation is not be reactive, but to be preemptive. So, we have a people code and code of conduct in our heads that when we see a guy starting to drift, then we have some protocols in place to be preemptive and to limit liability, right? Because we don't want that person getting hurt.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, in guest relations, just because a person's had a bad night that night doesn't mean they're a bad person or that you don't want them back in the business, right? Because alcohol has a tendency to bring out the worst in people. Yeah. And, you just got to not take it personal, right? So, for sure, you want to be aware of all the dynamics that can affect business. Right, because it's a legitimate business these days for sure.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you brought that up, being a legitimate business. Because when I was younger, growing up in New York, when I was finally turned 18, was able to go to a strip club. I went to some places in Yonkers. When I tell you the slum of the slum, dude, like a chick on the pole eating grilled cheese, her kids are on the side. And then when I came down here, and you go to a club, because that's what it is. It's a gentleman's club like Monroe's. It's like, wait. These places actually exist. The food is on point. The women are on point. I mean, it's just a great atmosphere, because I know a lot of people who are going to be listening and watching this that maybe never gone to a gentleman's club have that negative stigma. Like, this is a grimy place. All the people there are disgusting. They're all lowlives and stuff like that. And that's why it's good to experience something like that, and it can completely change your perspective.
Right, for sure. I mean, let's not get it twisted. The stigma's been earned in a lot of places. And there are some places still to this day that operate fairly unprofessionally, which is a shame for them, because you can make the same amount of money operating and running a professional operation. So, what's important to us at Monroe's is that we positively affect everybody that works with us, be it the independent contractors, the staff, and we want to have that same positive effect on the guests. So you don't want to create an environment where it lends itself to criminality or, just frowned upon behavior, because those places left unchecked can breed stigma.
Like a virus.
Right.
It'll just grow and grow and grow. Next thing you know, it's out of control. And the times I've been to Monroe's, you can see it's like a family atmosphere there.
Right.
You and your crew, I mean, you guys all get along. You don't see any hostility towards one another, which could be huge in any workplace, let alone a gentleman's club. So, Mario, I want to talk about how you got started, though, in mixed martial arts, because I'm fascinated about that. I just found that out literally this morning. I'm like, dude, I have so many questions for this man. Like,
it's my secret weapon.
It is your secret weapon. You're like, I don't like to let too many people know about it. I was like, take those pics off your Instagram then, player.
Right. So, well, here's the reason I don't let a lot of people know. And mostly it revolves around work, right? Because I don't want to intimidate people.
Yeah.
Right. I'm already a fairly large guy, so I'm always cognitive of the fact that could be intimidating to people. So I always have to try to have a soft approach, very friendly, warming approach when I deal with people. But I don't want people to just associate that mixed martial arts fighter with what it is I am or who I am as a person, right? So I never lead with it. If it comes out, it comes out. It came out.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I've known you for probably 5 or 6 years now. Yeah. You're just now finding out about it. But
that's how you know you do a good job of keeping it on the low.
So
I'm giving you all my secrets, by the way.
So I wrestled in high school and wrestled in college. And when I got back from college, I was kind of just missing that competitive environment. There was a void, obviously.
Yeah, it's something that does not go away.
Right. So, I mean, a lot of athletes, you'll hear like retired athletes, and you'll hear a lot of athletes always talking about adjusting to being normal, right? Yes, it's a kind of normal life when you stop dedicating almost every waking hour to a sport or your craft. So I got back from school and I was looking for something to fill that void. And just so happened, a good friend of mine, Pat Seidel, who wrestled with me in high school, was training with a guy named Dean Thomas out of Port St. Lucie.
Okay.
And Dean Thomas is probably one of the most well-known MMA fighters, definitely out of Port St. Lucie, but probably out of South Florida.
Okay.
Overall, like homegrown.
Yeah.
grew up here, started training here. He was a guy who was training, in garages, learning before the sport even was popular. So I got my start with Dean Thomas. And at the time, he was on American Top Team, which is the world's largest, probably most successful MMA team in the world still to this day. And I just kind of got, outgrew Port St. Lucie, then started training down at the main academy. And it just kind of snowball effect from there, right? So the wrestling background obviously helped tremendously.
Yeah.
It propelled me a lot sooner than a guy would go if he just came in off the street, So that's kind of how I got into it.
Okay, and how far? Like, what level did you make it to?
So, well, I fought on a couple different pay-per-views. I was on season 1 of Bodog Fights. I just got inducted maybe a couple years back. I couldn't tell you the year, but I got inducted into the Florida Mixed Martial Arts Hall of Fame.
Congratulations. You're the first Hall of Famer I've ever had on Under Pressure. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me. So, and then I won a couple world championships in submission grappling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And, I would say I had a decent career. AFC heavyweight champ, WFO heavyweight champ. So I have some championships. Never got to the UFC. I was supposed to be on one of the seasons of The Ultimate Fighter. I ended up getting bumped for Kimbo Slice.
Oh, they bumped you for Kimbo, bro?
They bumped me for
Kimbo
Slice.
Was as viral as anything at the time.
Listen, at the time I took it personally, but once you look at it from a business standpoint, you understand, like, hey, you got a guy who, I'm an up-and-coming guy who only people in the mixed martial arts world know and respect, or you got a guy that has transcended the brand and it's a brand all of its own, So, but on the flip side of that, I was able to fight Rico Rodriguez the month that the show started, which was the ex-UFC champ that I ended up winning a unanimous decision over in Tampa. So
look at that. Things happen for a reason.
Right, so that was the biggest fight of my career, probably.
And that Kimbo Slice name drop, I'm just thinking, I remember just seeing those videos of him just beating the crap out of people on the streets, but then it's just a different ball game. You see what happens when he starts fighting actual, real, just people that got that dog in them. You know what I'm saying? It's totally different from being able to fight some people that might be trained just because they got into a couple street fights, and then actual MMA fighters, because he could not handle himself once he got into the octagon.
I tell people all the time, there's levels to everything you do, right? So even in the mixed martial arts world, there's levels to the guys and their depth of knowledge or their expertise, right? So a street fighter is definitely not a mixed martial arts fight, and vice versa. Yeah. Right? You can't bite people in the octagon. You can't eye gouge people and stuff too. So, I mean, you got some things that translate well in both, and you got some things that's totally irrelevant, right? So for what he did and what he accomplished, he did a great job. Yeah.
I mean, he got to a level that probably nobody could have imagined him getting to. And I think one of the big things that I don't know if too many people who aren't in the fighting game know, stamina is everything. You can knock out a couple people in 5 seconds. It's all great, but it's like if they can last a minute and a half, then you're winded. I think that's what happened to Mike Tyson back in the day. Like once his fights went longer than 30 seconds, he's like, oh man, like there's more to this, and you just get worn down. Was that something you made a focus in your training to just make sure you had that cardio?
Conditioning is probably the most important thing. Just to piggyback on what you just said, we used to have a term that fatigue makes a coward of us all, right? So you can't fight if you can't breathe, right? So obviously conditions probably paramount. Mike Tyson, by the way, in that fight, his trainer was actually, I trained with his trainer. He was actually sick in that fight.
He was sick?
James Buster Douglas, yeah.
That first one against Douglas, huh?
Yeah. So,
I did not know that.
And then as he got older, the conditioning played a role in it. But sidebar. But anyway, so conditioning is very important. Conditioning was something I did focus on. And the couple losses that I have on my record were, with the exception of one word, exactly because I didn't hit the conditioning the right way prior to the fight.
Was it something that was just overconfident, or you kind of just mailed it in?
A couple short notice fights.
Okay.
Right. So I took short notice fights, and listen, as a pro fighter, especially back in that era, you always kind of kept yourself in shape because it wasn't as organized and as professional as it is now. So you might get a call and say, hey, I got an opportunity for you, right? And as an up-and-comer, you got to be ready for those opportunities. The problem with that is that if you're not really in a fight camp, you're not really in fight shape. Mm-hmm. You might be in better shape
from the outside
than the average person, for sure. Like, even right now, I could probably out-jog the average person.
You could out-jog
right?
me, for sure.
But that's not fight shape.
Yeah.
Right? The fight shape is something that, you can't just run and get. You can't just keep up your conditioning. You have to actually fight the rounds and put in the work. And if you don't have a long enough camp where you can develop that conditioning, then you're going to have, not so successful outcomes.
So if you were training a fighter right now, what is the minimum amount of time you'd be like, my fighter needs to train for a fight?
Minimum, if he's already in shape and he's been training, I would say 6 weeks of hard training before the fight, and maybe, a week of shadow boxing and going through like game plan stuff. And that's the week where you're going to weigh in and then you fight that Friday night or that Saturday night. But I would say really it depends on the fighter and how bad a shape you come into camp. Yeah. Some people might need 8 weeks. If you're really in bad shape, you might need 12, because you're getting ready to go in there and go, hand to hand with somebody and their objective is to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right? So it takes a lot of conditioning to prevent another grown man from executing his game plan.
Yeah, knocking you the fuck out.
Right, because by definition, you're fighting the whole time.
Yeah.
It's literally a struggle
It is.
for 15 minutes.
It's not friendly banter for the first 2 minutes to be like, all right, you ready to throw these hands?
Right.
On 3. So I'm assuming you're a huge fan of the UFC currently.
I watch it.
Yeah.
I'm not as huge a fan as you would think. When I watch it, I'm looking at positioning, techniques.
So it's the art of it, not necessarily
I'm
the
not
two
watching
fighters.
I'm not into the fighters, right?
Okay.
So obviously, if there's a guy from American Top Team, I'm always rooting for the American Top Team guys because I was on the team for the better part of a decade. So I'm always rooting for the home team, but I'm not a fan of individual fighters per se.
Okay, because my TikTok is flooded with Patty the Batty.
Right.
Oh, he cracks me
See,
up.
I'm not high on Patty the Batty.
Really?
I don't like the UK guys, man.
Just UK guys? It's just something about them?
I just don't like, they talk a lot.
Yeah.
They talk a lot of shit.
They talk the most shit. Some of their shit talking is so good, though.
And I will say that Patty did impress me this last fight because Michael Chandler was a big challenge for him. But what I would say mostly is true, and I'm going to get some of my friends from the UK and not going to like this, but
good. We want controversy.
I don't think their skill sets as a whole
translate
is on par with American mixed martial artists. The Dagestani guys are crazy now, and the Brazilians. You're right. So I just don't think they're up to speed yet. Okay. Right. So their wrestling's typically always pretty bad. Their ground game's average. And they're big strikers, but again, you can't punch somebody if you can't stay on your feet.
Yeah.
Right? So
once you fight someone who's got an insane ground game, it's going to be rough.
Right. It changes the dynamics, right? But that goes into that game planning and that training, the 6 weeks of the game plan and the training. So I think that they are catching up, but I think largely they talk more than their skill sets allow.
Do you think that was because of Conor McGregor? Like, he led that charge?
I think Michael Bisping was the first guy to talk a lot of crap, right? And I don't know if I just don't like the way it sounds with their accent or what, but, he talked more than he should have, in my opinion, because, here I am saying a guy that was a UFC champ talked more than he should have. But, one, I like to be humble, right?
Yeah.
So I never was a guy that talked smack before fights. But if you're going to talk smack, then you need to be the top dog. Like, if John Jones decided to start talking smack, which he doesn't, then I would say, well, nobody beat him.
Yeah.
Right?
I was going to ask you that question. Who do you think is the best fighter of all time? I know it's so tough to do, to rank fighters, but in your opinion, like prime versus prime, who do you think has it?
Man, that's very tough.
You mentioned Jones, so I was assuming you were going to go there.
I think you got to give it to Jones, man. I mean, he's not a fan favorite for some people because of his out of the cage antics. But I mean, if you look at it, the people who he beat, he has a Hall of Fame list. Not just one Hall of Famer. He has, and probably if I sit down and think of it, but off the top of my head, I could say he probably had 6 Hall of Famers on his list, right? And ex-UFC champs.
And those Hall of Famers, were they still at their peak, or it was kind of like they were nearing the end?
Some of them were nearing
taking
the
anything
end.
Away from
some of them were nearing the end, but I mean, like when he beat Lyoto Machida, I mean, Lyoto was like a riddle to everybody. Nobody could figure out how to beat him, and he choked him to sleep. So I mean, like
just that visual.
I mean, he literally choked him to sleep, you know, and it's like
that's one way to solve that riddle.
Hey man, like that's amazing.
Yeah,
you know, he beat a guy that was giving people fits, you know, and no matter who you put in front of him, he's been able to not only beat him, but convincingly beat him. So, you know, he had a couple close fights with maybe Reyes, and I think the first Gustafsson fight was close, could have went either way. Some fans would pick Reyes in that fight, but you got to beat the champ, one. And two, you got to look through what was actually effective and versus the output, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, if a guy has a big output, but he ain't landing shots, does it really matter, right? So he just throwing in the wind, or he hitting his elbows, or whatever the case may be. And I think Jones edged him out in that fight. But I mean, I would say you have to go with John Jones, and then I would probably go a little biased here. I would go probably Fedor Emelianenko.
Okay.
Because he was a heavyweight, and at his prime, he was unstoppable. And then you probably have to go with George St. Pierre. And I don't know. And then I would go Khabib.
Khabib?
Khabib.
Yeah, Khabib was an animal. Absolutely.
He's
not fighting anymore, right?
No, he's done. But, I mean, when a guy makes people look like they shouldn't be in the octagon, you got to be like, yeah, that guy's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Right? His wrestling just nullified everything. Like, I mean, look what he did to Conor.
Yeah.
Conor looked like
he never fought before.
Right. So, I mean, that's crazy.
Just the whole concept of fight, because anybody could get knocked out with one punch, and that is the crazy thing about like mixed martial arts. Because if you put 2 basketball players, Michael Jordan against someone else, Michael Jordan's probably going to win to 21 in a game of 21, just because it's going to happen. He's better than you. But when all it takes is one punch or one grapple to get somebody in a submission, I mean, it's literally like, damn. It's just one moment you slip up and you're done.
Right. So that was the thing with the UFC. Styles make fights, right? So if a guy can catch you and he's a good striker, then you can go to sleep. Yeah. You know, it just really depends on the matchups, man. So like skill sets vary so much, athleticism, physical abilities vary so much that the matchups truly do determine the outcome in most cases, right? So, like, if a guy's super athletic and a good striker and you can't get him down to the ground, you're going to have a long night. He's going to punch you a lot, you know? And if a guy can punch but he can't stop the takedown, then he's going to have a long night.
Yeah.
For instance, Conor McGregor versus Khabib. It was not the way he envisioned that fight going.
Yeah, I want to watch that fight again.
Yeah, it was.
Just to see
he just dominated him, you know?
To make somebody as acclaimed as Conor look, as you said, it's just like he never fought before.
Right.
Just coming in there and be like, hey, is this your first time? I remember my first time, and then just beat the brakes off of him. But I want to touch back now on Monroe's, because I need to know, Mario, because the billboards you guys produce are literally some of the greatest bits of advertisement in the history of advertisement. From the cats, There's Something for Everyone, which is still my most viral video on my Instagram.
Is it really?
To the golf one, the foursomes. Who's in the boardroom right there?
Right,
brainstorming.
So,
I want to be. I want to be in there.
Pinpoint who did it, but I know either Scott or Lizzie came up with the cats.
Yeah. I mean, the cats are so
the cats are great, right?
I looked, and I was like, isn't that where Monroe's
So I was
billboard
getting
usually
calls
is?
from
Shit,
Texas.
It is.
I was getting calls from people in the business in Texas and in the Midwest, and it was like, hey, can we use that billboard? Everybody wants to use it, and it's a very catchy thing. It's a play on,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. But we kind of have roundtable meetings. The admin team, and that's the owner, all the partners, Lizzie, and we brainstorm the marketing. And I don't know where exactly, I can't pinpoint the exact time. I believe Scott came up with the cats.
Dude,
that's we made a shift.
Idea.
We've made a shift now. If you go, we have some funny videos on our page with a person in a cat suit. So go check them out. See it. Right?
Would you still let me in if I just dress up in a cat suit one night?
I'll
text you.
You have
first.
a lifetime
permission I'm good, right?
to come in a cat suit, bro. Whenever you want to come in a cat suit,
you heard it here first. Oh, could you imagine? I'll get an under pressure shirt and a giant cat suit.
Whenever you want to come in a cat suit, you're good to go, bro.
You're saying it now, and then when I actually do it, you're like, "Fuck! I can't believe this dude actually did it. This guy's in a cat suit."
But so that's where we're shifting our marketing to. We want to be. I mean, we're entertainment.
Yeah.
Right? We're adult entertainment. We're a gentleman's club, but we want to be fun.
Yeah.
Right? We are, as you know, it is a pretty fun environment. And I think so much of marketing needs to relate to your target audience, what it is you actually do and what the product is. Because, that's the whole purpose, right? So, McDonald's is not going to put the cats up, right?
Yeah.
They're going to put a Big Mac up, right?
Of course.
And so, we're adult entertainment. So it's a little, I don't want to call it raunchy, but it's a little catchy. It's a little provocative. But in the same instance,
there's naked
fun.
women there. Yeah. I
right.
mean,
it's a fun billboard, right? So, I think that billboard, very successful. I think it relays almost perfectly what it is you're getting yourself into, right? It's a fun, come out, have fun. There is something for everyone there.
That is the truth.
There's food, there's women, there's everything that you could possibly want in a night on the town, and you're gonna get good service.
Yeah.
Right. So in a safe environment. So I think we hit the mark with the billboard.
Safe, clean, and as you said with the billboard, you definitely hit the mark with it. Because when you go there, some of my favorite moments in life are when we're out, right? When we're out, all of a sudden, we all give ourselves that look. It's 1, 2 o'clock. It's where are we going to go? And everyone looks at me, they're like, text Mario. I'm like, you got it. And then you're like, oh, yeah, come on through. And it's just the best. And I love some of the theme nights. There was... I remember it was last year sometime. It was like a safari theme night. You guys had snakes and everything. It's a full on show. I mean, you get caught up in the moment. For a second, you're like, "Where am I?"
Right.
You got women in the ceiling. It was just so cool. And you also help with the concepts of the theme nights.
Yeah. So again, we round table discussion almost any direction the club goes in is a round table discussion with the admin team. And we just brainstorm off each other, we come up with ideas. And we have a very diverse team. We have older, we have, Lizzie's the youngest, recently graduated from college or whatever the case may be.
Congrats to Lizzie.
Right. We have a very diverse team. We have female thought process in there. We have me, who's been in the dope business for 20 years. You have, the DJ, our head DJ, who's also a partner there. Yeah. Scott, TJ, and we just have a well-rounded group of guys that work well with each other and come up with ideas that we can market.
I mean, I guess we just say you just mesh well. As I said earlier, it's a family environment. The longevity. How long have you been at Monroe's now?
I've been at Monroe's about 10 years now.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people that you started with are still there. And that just shows you...
There's a large amount of people that's still there.
How great of a place that is to work. And it's we want to keep coming back here. We want to keep building on something that's already a great product. And then when it comes to the food, people do not believe me when I say some of the best places to eat our gentlemen's club, and you guys are on top. I mean, the steak is incredible. The charcuterie board is one of my favorite things. I'm a sucker for charcuterie boards, dude. And when that comes
It's
out,
big right now, the charcuterie board.
dude, it's so big. My girlfriend Tyler loves charcuterie boards.
It's good. You come in,
Yeah.
you've been drinking. It's a little snack to kind of sober you up and keep you going, right?
Yeah, you need something to soak up
Right,
that alcohol.
right. So, I mean, all the food's from scratch. Scott developed the menu when we opened the place, and it's something that the entire administration team takes personal, and we really hyper focus more than probably anybody I would say in any adult nightclub would be on the food and the service.
Yeah.
We're super hyper focused on it, right? So like
You get 5-star service there.
right, we
You really
want
do.
the quality of food to be next level, right? So we want to be that 5-star dining experience. So like, from being there, the Legends Lounge, you can go back there and have a 5-star
Yeah.
dinner with great service.
And because a lot of people, they might not want to jump right into it, be like, I don't want to go to a gentleman's club. Still, because of that stigma that we talked about on the show, if you go to the Legends Lounge, you sometimes forget that you're even in a
Right.
gentleman's club because you're so secluded back there. It's a whole different environment. It's more of just a VIP lounge. That's the way I look at it. That's exactly what it is.
Right. Yeah, so, we do open it up to the public 3 days a week as a speakeasy, 4 days a week, excuse me. We have live music back there. We have live comedy back there. And during those times, we don't even allow the entertainers to go back there.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of those times, entertainers can only go back by invite.
Yeah.
And we're very cautious of the behavior back there because we want it to be that lounge country club feel that you can come there and set your own pace, right?
Yeah.
If you want the girls, we can get the girls. If you want to have a quiet dinner for two, if you want to go on a date,
have that too.
you can have that too, and not be worried about being interfered with,
And the women there, never pushy. They're never like, if they come over to you, they'll ask, hey, do you want? No, I'm good. They go away. And as I said, back to the 5-star service, as someone who knows you, who's been there plenty of times, of course, we vibe, we're friends, I'm going to get great service. But I like to look around and see everybody else who I don't know if you know them from a hole in the wall, still get that same quality service. Right. And that shows you the type of place you're in, because anybody can take care of their friends and make sure they have the best time ever. But when I just look around, I'm like, wow, this place just knows what they're doing.
Right. Well, I think that all businesses takes on the persona of the leadership, right? So we like to employ and we like to have people around us who genuinely care about the guest experience. And when you have leadership that's in that mindset, then it's gonna flow down towards the staff and the entertainers. And when you're making your decisions, it's going to be based on providing that guest experience. So we don't have pushy girls because we eliminate them.
Okay.
Right?
So there's been times where...
So entertainment's a whole nother subject altogether, Carmine, but they're all independent contractors, so they come and go as they please, right? So essentially, just like if you were to hire somebody to help you with this podcast, you wouldn't know exactly what you got until you watched them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So there are some times where maybe you hired or contracted the wrong girl or the wrong employee, and you will put the effort forth to help them come more in line with your ideology, right? And your philosophy as far as how you want the business to run or how you want people to feel inside your establishment. And then once you determine whether that person can acclimate or not, then you have to make a decision, right? So I would say that over the years, I've been pretty good at identifying people who can't acclimate to the culture and then moving on from them, right? Because we don't want anybody to have a bad experience ever, right? So that's where we are with it.
That's great. It's almost like instead of shit or get off the pot, it's like shit or get off the pole. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be doing that stuff.
Don't shit on the pole.
No.
Get off the pole.
Well, now that's going to segue into something totally different now, Mario. With the exception of me dressing up as a cat one day in the not too distant future, what is one of the most absurd things you've seen? Doesn't have to be the most reckless, but I need to know the funny shit you've seen, the moments where you're like, how is this real life?
Carmine, I can write a book.
There you go. We'll start with chapter 1. Let's hear the first couple.
Chapter 1. I was maybe 12 or 13 years ago, I was working in another club.
Okay.
I was a young general manager, just got promoted to GM, and I was working a day shift. And I'll never forget, this guy came in, and he was probably about 240 pounds, not physically fit, in a Hooters outfit. The story's not over with yet.
I know. I'm thinking about that visual. So he filled out that Hooters shirt well.
He was
with
a sloppy, overweight guy.
Yeah.
And he was probably in his mid to late 50s with glasses.
Okay.
He had the stockings on, the shorts.
Holy shit.
And the shirt. And I never forget thinking to myself, what the fuck is going on? But being who I am, I'm not going to kick you out for it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to like...
Let me find out what this
It
guy's
was day
doing.
shift. It wasn't that busy. I'm not going to make him feel
it's day
weird.
shift too?
Right. So he
Make him feel weird. You're not going to make him feel weird, Mario. I think he was doing a good job.
Well, I think he really got weird after he got up. He got a dance.
Uh-huh.
And then next thing you know, I see him running across the club. I'm like, what the hell's going on? He run out and he gets in his car. And so I go back and check with the girl. And he was like, yeah, I was dancing with him. And he got aroused and got freaked out. And he just pushed me off and ran out. And I was like, that was probably one of the weirdest. That's pretty weird.
Yeah, I mean, you should expect that may happen. Things might come up. Literally, things might come up when you're
especially if you're wearing those Hooters shorts, for God's sakes.
I thought you were going to say, next thing I know, he runs across, jumps on stage, and then people start throwing dollars his way.
No, I did. I'm going to throw them.
Yeah, then it's time to get the fuck out of there. Yeah. You had
we
your
can't
fun.
participate. And then one other time it was Halloween, and I'm working the door at Monroe's. Guy shows up in assless chaps with a thong on. And
once again, you're like, I can't just.
And
that's a little different.
No, I didn't
right?
let him in. I didn't want him sitting on the seats.
Okay,
right?
yeah, I was going to say.
You got to have pants on the seat. Come in, right?
You better get a seat cushion.
He made a big stink about it. He told me he was going to sue me, and it's like, well, all means you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, you're going to wear those assless chaps to court?
Yeah, right. Like, that's
funny,
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and he was probably in his late 60s. It wasn't like he was like some young, Magic Mike type moment. He was.
At what age do we start rocking Hooters outfits and assless chaps, Mario? Are we getting close to that age?
I guess it's something that you have to just, it's on your bucket list. You got to check it off one day. But, I mean.
We'll call that the fuck it list.
Right, yeah.
Like, that's just a lot.
I mean, and there's so much stuff in the other places that I work. We had a guy, when I first got in the business down in Miami, he used to show up with fishnets in a brown paper bag, and he liked to put them on before he get dances. Guys like to get kicked in the balls, all kinds of stuff.
I've never understood.
There's a lot of
the
kinks.
Fascination with that.
Yeah.
The kinks for sure. And then there is a place for that. And I'm glad when it came to the fishnet stocking guy, you let him let his freak flag fly.
Right.
Instance.
Well, so I was just a floor host, and nobody ever saw it. The girls just told us, hey, you know what's in that brown paper bag, right? I'm like, no, what's in there? It's like, the guy likes to go to the bathroom and puts on fishnets before he gets a dance. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's unique.
Guess it's not his lunch. I was thinking,
Right.
I think it was a sandwich.
It was weird that he had a brown paper bag, but I guess, and he had heels in there too, and he liked to put on heels, so he was like a cross-dressing type guy, I guess.
And then back to assless chaps Anthony, who tried to sue you. People don't understand. You don't have to let anybody in.
Right, it's a private business.
It doesn't matter. I could be wearing this outfit. You'd be like, I hate Psycho Bunny.
Right.
See ya.
Right.
Mario, should I wear the cat outfit?
Yeah, I mean, when people start drinking, sometimes the logic,
of course, goes out the window.
Yeah, it goes out. We all the time, if you don't let a guy in, it's they tell the black guy that I'm racist. So whatever the case may be.
The race card probably gets played often.
Right, and I'm like, well, how is that even possible, dude?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you don't let them in and they can't understand and they know the owner, and I'm like, well, interesting, because I know the owner.
Yeah, be like, so do I. That's cool. Like, we have something about.
Right.
That is as someone who worked in the service industry for so long, anytime someone says, I know the owner, You know what they know? They know someone owns the restaurant or they've
Right.
seen that owner once. They're not friends.
Right.
They don't hang out. People who say, I know the owner, 9 times out of 10, they're shitty tippers. They want every single thing for them. And it's just because one time they ran into the owner.
If they know the owner, they're going to be texting them.
Yeah, just text
so
them.
you don't
yeah.
have to worry about it if they really know them. You know, that's like one of the things that, I mean, happens frequently. It's everybody knows the owner, right? Or everybody knows me when they come there. And it's like, if they know me, they're going to text me.
Yeah. I do it all the time. I make sure I text you because not everybody at the door knows who I am. I'm not going to be like, oh, I know Mario, let me in. They're like, okay, who are you, bro? That's why I'll be like, I'll text him real quick. You know, I'm the least amount of drama you can have.
No, you're the best, bro. In fact, I'm a little upset. I haven't seen you in a while.
I know. That's a good thing for my mom now, who's going to be watching or listening to this. See, Mom,
I haven't seen him in a couple years.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to get that cat suit and things are going down.
I'm waiting on the cat suit.
Speaking of which, like, what do you guys have coming up? How can people get in contact with you guys?
Upcoming things, well, obviously Barry Jackson's coming to town, so we're going to be themed out for Barry Jackson, which is, you know, the auto auction.
I'm going to have Kenny come then. You know, Kenny loves his cars. So.
Yeah, so we have that going on. We have a Black Card members dinner coming up, which I'll probably invite you and Kenny because I haven't seen you guys in a while.
Well, thank you. Accepted. 100%.
Right.
Yes.
So, and, you know, we got a couple other promotions we're working on at the moment. So we're coming up with probably another summer series events where we bring in the DJs and stuff like that.
I'm excited. Maybe take Under Pressure right into the Legends Lounge.
Hey, let's go.
We'll do it right from there.
I'm
ready. Mario, thank you so much. That was another episode of Under Pressure. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. You can find us on everywhere you can consume your podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and it goes on and on and on. Tell your friends about it. Tell your friends about Monroe's, and let's have dinner soon.
Appreciate you, bro.